Welcome to the Widowed Mom Podcast, episode 286, We Learn by Doing.
Welcome to the Widowed Mom Podcast, the only podcast that offers a proven process to help you work through your grief, to grow, evolve, and create a future you can truly look forward to. Here's your host, Master Certified Life Coach, grief expert, widow, and mom, Krista St-Germain.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Just had the best group of widows to my house on Saturday, and it was amazing. It's called Coaching on the Couch. Been doing it, I think this was our fourth or fifth time to do it. And it was Mom Goes On members from all over who came to my little town. It's not that little, but feels little probably, considering where other people are from. And we just coached all day on my couch. They had dinner together on Friday night and we coached all day and we had amazing food. And I gave everybody blankets and journals and they all curled up in my living room and we did some deep, powerful work. And more than that, they got to be connected in ways that you just can't do on Zoom. I love Zoom, but there's something about in person. So that was really, really meaningful to me. And then we all went out to dinner. It was cool. It was cool. So if you were there, I loved it. I hope you loved it. If you've never been before, maybe next time you can come. They do sell out kind of quick, but it's pretty awesome. And there's a couple of people who couldn't make it, which was sad at the last minute. Didn't work out. So we missed them. So if you were one of those people, we missed you. So that's what's been going on in my world. Also, I'm doing another training, an integrative hypnosis training, which is the second training I've done with this particular teacher. And she is just amazing. Her name is Melissa Tears. And, my primary work probably won't be as a hypnotist, but I do think that hypnosis can have some powerful impacts, and learning how to use the tools that Melissa teaches is pretty dang cool and fun. And I just like learning. So that's been fun too. So, okay, let's talk about learning by doing. I realize that I have talked about this in other episodes, but I've never really done one episode completely about learning by doing. And sometimes I just wish I had one to point people towards. When this comes up, I could just say, hey, go listen to this episode. So now I'm going to say, hey, go listen to episode 286, because it's all about we learn by doing. I remember learning this phrase from a coach friend of mine, Amy Gianni, and I don't remember at what point I heard her say that, but it was pretty early on in my coach training. Not to say that she created it, but I just remember how powerful the idea was, both as I was learning to become a coach and then, really everything that I've done since. Honestly, it's so helpful. And so I wanted to talk about it because a lot of us are expecting ourselves to know things there's no way we could know. And as a widow, it really holds us back, or can. So I want to talk about how to use this philosophy in your life so that growth becomes easier. It's less stress and less pressure when we do it this way. And I just want that for you. So, of course, it makes sense that we want to know before we make changes, right? We always want to know how it's going to work out. We love the idea that if we just think about it enough, that the right answer will reveal itself, and yea, verily, we will not fail, right? But we know that's not how it works to be human. Sometimes you just don't have the information until you have the information. And to keep thinking beyond a certain point is to pass that point of diminishing return, right? Where thinking no longer is actually helping you prepare to make a decision. Sometimes we just have to accept that the only way we're going to learn is by doing. So, what does that mean? Really, it just means, can we iterate? Can we allow ourselves to iterate? When I used to work in manufacturing, I used to work for Learjet, Bombardier Learjet, and we built planes, right? One of the things that we were always focused on was continuous improvement. So if you've ever been in a manufacturing environment, this idea is not new to you, right? And also we were focused on iterative design. Understanding that planning and design is important, for sure, but sometimes what you need actually isn't revealed to you until you start testing. And I remember learning about this as we were learning about continuous improvement. And one of the things that helped illustrate it the best for me, which I hope will help you, was something I learned about called the Marshmallow Challenge. And you may have heard me talk about this before, but if you haven't, here's what it is. So the Marshmallow Challenge is a fun event that companies typically do as team builders. And you can actually go to, I think it's the marshmallowchallenge.com website. They have a website about it. But essentially how the challenge works is that you divide people up into small groups and you give them some supplies. So you give them a certain amount of uncooked spaghetti noodles, so hard spaghetti noodles. You give them a certain amount of tape and you give them one marshmallow, and then you set a timer. And to win the challenge, you have to be the team that builds the tallest tower with the spaghetti and tape with the marshmallow on top. And it has to be a freestanding tower. It can't be taped to the table. So you can tape the spaghetti noodles together, but you can't tape the spaghetti to the table. So the tallest freestanding structure with the marshmallow on top in a set amount of time. So you divide people up into groups, ready, set, go. And this challenge has been done in lots of different demographics. And so typically what happens in a corporate environment is that people will actually spend quite a lot of time jockeying for power, right? Trying to decide who's in charge and like figure out who the leader is. Then they will make a plan, like try to decide what they're going to do, spend a lot of time making a plan. Then they will start building after having made quite the detailed plan. They will start building. And then at the very last second before the timer goes off, they will put the marshmallow on the spaghetti. Very often then what happens is that their structure collapses because they did not understand how heavy the marshmallow was going to be, and they didn't test along the way. And so if you go to this website, you'll find that the results are broken down. And what you see is that the people who do the best at this in terms of adults typically are your architects and your engineers. The people who do the worst are business school graduates. They do better if they have an executive assistant or administrative assistant on the team. And the groups that do the best are kindergartners. And the reason that kindergartners actually do so much better than business school graduates is because kindergartners, first of all, they don't spend any time jockeying for power. They're not there yet, right? They actually immediately start picking up the spaghetti and putting the marshmallow on the spaghetti sticks and playing with it to see how heavy that marshmallow is. So they immediately do. They don't spend a lot of time planning. They start playing with their materials and they build it as they go, right? They're learning from their play and building with that data. And so that's why they do so well. So not that our college degrees weren't amazingly worthwhile, but some of us are having to unlearn this, right? Some of us are coming from an environment where we learned that failure is bad, where we learned that in order to be successful, you're supposed to get the A, myself included, by the way. That's why I think this teaching was so powerful to me, because I would, I will say a past life, but really what I mean is before becoming a business owner and a coach, specifically in my 40s, I did a lot of plan, like over planning. Instead of ready, aim, fire, my typical MO was ready, aim, like check the air, lick my finger, do it again, then fire. And that prevented me from making a lot of mistakes, for sure. But it also robbed me of the opportunity to learn fast. Because there are so many things that you can't learn unless you do. And I want you to treat widowhood like that. I really want to encourage you to treat widowhood like that. Yes, there are some things that you will want to research, right? There are some things that you just won't have the information for. And that's okay. We get that, right? So there's sometimes we really do need more information. So I'm not saying don't ever get more information. Go get more information. But there are some times when we just don't know until we try. We just don't know until we try. So for an example, as we go into the holidays, if you're thinking about a new holiday tradition, you're not going to know if you like it until you try it, right? That's how we learn. If you are considering some sort of new hobby, you're not going to know unless you try, right? Some sort of self-care practice, you're not going to know. Some sort of support group or coaching group or whatever, right? You're not going to know how it feels to be in that group until you're in it. Even decisions like accepting a job offer or moving, right? To some extent, we can imagine what it's going to be like, but there are limits to that. Sometimes we just got to do it and see what happens. See what it's like for us. Get new data, right? There's something I teach in Mom Goes On that I learned in manufacturing, which is plan, do, check, act, right? A continuous improvement cycle. You make a plan, P, you go do the thing, do, you check your work, right? C, that's PDC, and then you act on what you learned. And you do that as quickly as you possibly can. Right? You don't want to over plan. You want to plan enough so that you can do, so that you can get more information, and then you can adjust. And if we could just take that approach, it opens up the opportunity to move faster, right? The opportunity to learn faster. And it reduces the spinning and the over analyzing and the ready, aim, 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 aim. The over perfecting. So I want to encourage you to consider how you could use that. And it doesn't have to be big. You can start small. So pick one thing. Is there something that you've been like, I don't know, and you've been thinking it to death? And maybe if you could just let yourself try it, you would get new data and then you could learn from that. If you will go into it focusing on curiosity and not perfection, you will move faster in your life. Perfection is a myth anyway. We can all handle failure if we decide that we're going to have our own back and that we're willing to feel feelings and that we're not going to quit until we figure it out. We don't have to be so scared of failure. Now, I say that, and I also want to simultaneously acknowledge that it can be really hard if that has been your pattern for so long. And it can't be even harder if your person was your cheerleader and they aren't here to cheer you on, and now you're having to figure out how to cheer yourself on even when you fail. But if you don't quit after you fail, and if you lose what you learn in the process of failing, and you just keep adjusting and taking that information into account, then eventually you'll get there. And so it's about knowing when we've almost thought to the point of diminishing return, it's time to take action, taking action, having so much grace and compassion for ourselves, even if the data that we get from having taken that action isn't exactly what we hoped, we have learned. And then we take into account what we learned and we make the next decision and take the next action. And we can always change our minds. We can always change our minds. I also want to encourage you to notice the wins as you go. Remember that your brain will want to focus for your survival more on the scary things and the losses than it will on the wins. It will want to remind you of how far away you are from where you want to go, as opposed to how far you've come from where you started. It will want to keep you in that gap. It's just a survival thing. So we have to intentionally notice the wins. I suggest you write them down. In Mom Goes On, we actually do a lot of win or victory celebrating. And it's not just noticing the wins, it's acknowledging them, but also noticing how it feels and spending a little time in that feeling and letting yourself feel good about the wins. And then if you have the habit of only congratulating yourself when you got it right, I want to offer that you consider congratulating yourself when you did it, right? When you let yourself learn by doing, even if it didn't go well, that you get in the habit of congratulating yourself right? Not everything's going to work out the first time. We're not going to like everything we try. But as long as we're doing, we're learning. And that's a beautiful way to get there. I would way rather you let yourself get out in the world and do and try and learn, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, even if there's failure along the way, so that you get new data, so that you can evolve and create what it is that you want. And if you're used to celebrating only, the perfection, I hear you. I was there. And we don't have to do that to ourselves anymore. You can celebrate the doing, celebrate the learning, and we can lighten up a little bit. All right? That's what I have for you this week. Short but sweet. Hopefully it was helpful. I love you. You've got this. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. If you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and want to create a future you can truly get excited about even after the loss of your spouse, I invite you to join my Mom Goes On coaching program. It's small group coaching just for widowed moms like you, where I'll help you figure out what's holding you back and give you the tools and support you need so you can move forward with confidence. Please don't settle for a new normal that's less than what you deserve. Go to coachingwithkrista.com and click Work With Me for details and next steps. I can't wait to meet you.